Bow your head with that word prayer. Our Father, we're thankful for the opportunity we have to come here tonight, for the opportunity we have to serve you. For when we serve our community and when we serve our students and staff, we feel like we're serving you. So we're trying to do the best we can for our school system and our community. We ask that you bless these decisions and discussions that we'll have tonight and make us do the best that we can for our community. All these things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion second, discussion. All those in favor of the agenda presented to you signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Announcements and recognitions.
Yes, sir. As we do every year, we have the Georgia School Boards Association. They have a print media beacon award, and we are very proud tonight to have the representation of one of our own for the Beacon Award. And he has done a tremendous job of helping us advertise our boys and girls and teachers and staff in a positive way. And we would like to ask Mr. Tim Anderson to come forward to receive the Beacon Award this year, 2019. Y'all will give him a hand. Thank you very
I just say one
much.
thing.
Absolutely.
There are a lot of newspapers out there whose school boards never nominate them for this award. And it doesn't get old to win it. This is the ninth one. The ninth time y'all have nominated me, and the ninth award I've won. And so it's as much a reflection on this board as it is on me. And I thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was gonna make that comment. There were only 3 boards this year that nominated their local papers for an award, and only 1 in the electronic media category. So there were only 4 things nominated this year. Okay. Mr. Wiley.
I know since I walked in the door, I've been talking about this Career Ready Canes program that we put together not a couple of weeks ago, but we changed the name from Career Ready. I think we had it Industry Ready or Industry. We changed the name either way, but it's Career Ready Canes, and just tell you a little bit about it, and that's showing some pictures of the week. But just to refresh your memory, basically what we did is on Monday we started a program where we talked about writing resumes and getting ready for an interview. Miss Kelly, if y'all hadn't had a chance to meet Miss Angel Kelly, she's very dynamic. She's one of the best we've got. And she talked to them Monday morning about body language and greetings, and how when you see a lot of teenagers, they don't know how to talk to you, they don't know how to greet you. Well, these guys up here in this picture right here, they know. They didn't know Monday, but they know now. And we talked about a lot of things. All of them are OSHA 10 certified now. So if they need to go get a job at a manufacturing facility, a nursing home that requires OSHA training, they've got the first leg of their OSHA training done. So that was big. But the two things really stood out to me is the mock interviews. We had a lot of people in this room help out with the mock interviews. Mr. Anderson came and he did some interviews. Mr. Jack Paul came, Jason Dunn came, who's another partner of ours. Several people at the board office came. This guy right here on the right, he's from Whitecoat. He flew in for this luncheon that we had this day. So we had the interviews and they did great. But at the luncheon, these pictures you'll see, if you notice, we sat different kids, different students with people that we felt like that they would get something out of. We had somebody that wanted to, it had nothing to do with what Manna Nutrition does, but she wanted to help people. I can't remember what her long-term goal was, but it was all about helping people. And I said, I'm gonna stick you with the Man of Nutrition table because that's what their whole mission is. And so basically we put the welders with the folks that were gonna hire welders. We put everybody with somebody for a certain reason. And it worked out really well. Everybody's been in that room in Wiregrass, but they all, were responsible for greeting somebody, making small talk and just talking to these business and industries. And they all did a great job, and they would not have been able to do it when we started on that Monday. So I'm very happy with the way it turned out. Dr. Harrelson and Ms. Clemens and I have really talked about possibly making this into a class. That's a year-long thing, and packing as many certifications that they might need or that our industry says they need into one class. Because we did this in a week, and you wouldn't think we could have made a whole lot of progress in 1 week, but we did. One more story, and then I'll sit down. I had a visitor Friday come and spend some time with me, another CEO. And the guy right there on the right in the red shirt, Mr. Mack, he wouldn't look you in the eye Monday. And Dr. Washington and I met him coming down the hall. And I said to myself, I'm about to put him to the test. So I introduced him to Dr. Washington, and he looked her dead in the eye, gave her a firm handshake. I said, Dr. Washington, it's very nice to meet you. Where are you from? I mean, he started the conversation. He did it exactly like we told him to do it. And then when he walked off, I said, that was one of our kids in our Career Ready program. She said, I can't believe it. That guy, he did it. He greeted me perfectly. So, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but for that kid right there, that was huge. And I'm very proud of all of them. They did a good job. So that was something good that we've done. And they all received their OSHA 10 certification and their completion cert.
Now, Hal doesn't give him and his team enough credit when you look at these things, but he also gave them dining etiquette class. And these young men and women could not, as he said, stand up and talk in front of a group. Every single one of them got up and spoke.
And at the end of the program, I said, does anybody from industry or student, would you like to say something about the week? And I planted one person because I needed one person to make sure they did it trying to look silly. So Brent Boozlog is he's my one. I knew he could do it. He could have done it, a month ago. So I planted him. I knew he was going to do it. But before he could get up, Mr. Mack in the red right there got up, took the microphone. And there was probably, 60 people in there?
That's right.
And he talked and told what that week meant to him. Several other ones did. I don't think every one of them did it, but a lot of them did. Half of them did. So, anyway, it's a great week.
Congratulations.
You might need to do a class for us too. So.
Yeah.
He will be back a little bit. All right, moving into the next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the November 12th meeting.
I'm going to approve the minutes for November 12, 2019.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes from November 12th, 2019, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Moving into system reports, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items listed on your agenda as 6, 8 through 5.
I move to approve the consent agenda items, section 6, 8 through 5.
Second.
Motion second, now discussion, pay bills list.
Total expenses seem rather low for the month. We're at, $1,370,000, and our gross payroll was only $620,000. Is that right?
Well, you have to add Fund 150 expenses to
So
that.
that's
Fund
just Fund
150
100.
expenses were another $1,296,597.
Okay.
Not all of that is Fund 100 expense, but
How long before Fund 150 will be in with Fund
It
100?
was my goal to have it done this month, but I would missed about 10 days in November.
Oh, okay.
We didn't get it done.
Well, I thought it seemed a bit low. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
But, let me just ask about that payroll, 600, what did I say, 620,000? Is that normally what our payroll is?
No, ma'am, our payroll runs about 1.2
Million.
and that's just the net when you add the stuff in that we take out of people's checks and pay FICA and all the total expenditures are about between 1.6 and 1.8 every month, according with the money.
Well, that was just the first thing that jumped out at me. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. General fund fiscal year to date.
General fund, let's see. Fund balance is a little bit out, about $300, but we're showing $3,086,000.
Yes, ma'am, and if we had charged the Fund 150 expenses back to 100, that, I'm pretty sure it would be closer to about $1.2 million, because we're right at the time where it's the lowest point of the year.
When do you anticipate we'll start receiving our federal funds? I notice we still don't have anything in.
That is correct, that's because we have to do the journal entries to charge the expenses back to Fund 100 and the federal programs before we can actually bring in the reimbursements.
Thank you.
Okay, East Bluff report.
November East Plus, $187,536.26. We're about $2,200 above our average. Nice. We need that, don't we, Mr. Gregg?
We sure do.
Yes, we do.
We're gonna need a lot more like that.
It's Christmas, shop at home.
Yes, please.
Okay, athletic reports.
Can I ask a question about athletic reports?
Yes,
This is
ma'am.
not the time. Could we get an itemized athletic report? I mean, I don't like seeing them got this much, spent this much. I wanna know why we spent this much and where this money came from.
Okay.
Can we do that for both middle and high school?
The middle school pretty much does it, right? Theirs is a little bit broken out.
Yes. The difference is that what is supposed to take place is the athletic budget is really the principal's budget. So therefore, when you start itemizing it out, you're looking at it from a principal standpoint because it belongs to the school. It's not a board faction. Now, if the willingness of the board, if that's what you want to see, then we can put it on here.
So you're saying that the athletic financial report will include things that does not have to do with athletics?
No, ma'am. I'm saying that when you approve the budget, the athletic budget itself is really not a systematic approach from system report. Y'all added that a long, long time ago, but it's really a principal's report. It's part of the school entity itself. But if that's what the board wishes, then we can move forward with that.
Mr. Pleasure.
I had asked for that a few months ago and like it was denied. Because apparently the board had requested those simple numbers. The middle school shows better numbers.
Question.
Yes.
Is the board responsible for that little pot of money? We are not. Oh.
It's informational only.
Yes.
We cannot fund any athletic program
That's
that we have. It's all, they all do it with their money.
Well, that might be changing, but
It is.
it is changing.
Just recently, within the last 5 years, we've started having to book balances of those accounts as part of our overall financial statements. The audit department's actually beginning to push down more and more responsibility onto the principal's accounts, and we're going to have to very soon, by the end of next year, probably have a whole set of policies and procedures regarding how each type of those accounts is handled. So we're going to be coming up with some new policies to be approved.
That's something that.
That's what they covered in
That's
the-
something that I wanna talk to you about too, a little bit later on, whenever we get to the GSBA report.
But they are subject to audit principle
Yes, they are.
Yes.
and
They very
everything
much are,
else that
yes.
we require.
Principal's accounts are largely made up of fundraiser funds and funds from fees that we charge. And any money that we make on athletic events. It's a hodgepodge of stuff, but we have a lot more flexibility in those accounts than we do in our governmental accounts over here. They can actually spend those monies on things like gift cards for students that are overachievers and meals for like Christmas parties and things like that.
Things that's not funded through state funds.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Well, yes, with understanding, these are informational reports, and they're under the purview of the board and the school system, but they're not under the control of the board in totality, other than the audit.
There will be more under board control in the next couple of years, according to how we write the policies, really, but.
But all we look at them is information, there's a little bit more details to them.
Okay.
I mean, there's probably some stuff in the front report we don't want, you know, to be honest. But understanding that all those things are under audit procedures and that kind of stuff, and, you know.
Would it be the board's pleasure to, when you see it, to have it broken down to where football, softball, and do it that way?
And we did that 2 or
Yes.
3 years, 4 years ago, maybe, we had a broader detail of it.
When you start looking at an account like the high school account, it is gonna have a lot of detail.
Exactly.
And it's for a lot of different things. A lot of different clubs, a lot of different.
That's exactly why.
things going on.
Yes, ma'am.
It was so broad, so much information,
So we're just talking about athletics.
that we spent a lot of time explaining.
Just the athletic account alone is.
Right, so just to give you an idea, at the middle school, there's one athletic account that covers everything. And at the high school, I think there's, if my math is correct from last year, 54 different accounts that make up the athletic account.
Yes.
So there's just, they can break it down, I'm glad it's not my job anymore, but they can break it down for you, but they're gonna need some specifics at what you're looking for, because there's just a lot of different factions that go into one big pile of money. And that account starts at 0 on July 1st every year. And the only money that goes in there are gate monies and fundraiser monies that they generate within themselves. So,
The other thing about that is, didn't we used to get at least once a year a full reporting of what the athletic report did as far as what monies the team gave to each and every school? Do y'all remember we used to get those? Can we continue at least to get that report? Which kind of tells us, and I explained that later on why I'm interested in that one.
We'll get something, see if that's what you want, not what you want.
That's right. I'll send you something that would be a prelim for the January meeting, so you can look at it. How about that?
Facilities report. Anything you need to know?
No, sir. Mr. Newell and his crew are working as hard as they can, and they're actually getting themselves ahead to prepare for the first of the year. Anything to add, Mr. Newell?
Just staying busy and, taking work orders, as you can tell. We did 124 work orders last month.
Exactly.
It's just busy. And we stayed on top of it, and pretty much every week Friday when the crew goes home, we caught up, you know, not on work orders. I mean,
Yes, sir.
There's other stuff to do, but yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, we stayed on top of the game.
Super. Thank you very much.
Plumbing continues to be
A major
a
point.
major issue.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions about the consent agenda items? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Bartek report, Matt?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just for the board's information, this is the regular monthly report that you're familiar with. Now, later on in the agenda, there is also an update to some of the ongoing recovery operations, as well as considerations to our approach going forward and the next steps. Okay, so if you just keep that in mind, I'll go through this, and then we'll cover that material when we come to it. So, looking at the monthly report for November, some of this has specific update items in it as well that occurred during the month. So one of the things that we've started doing just on the very basic level is we've started providing fishing awareness training that began at the primary school. So this is one of the needs that we've identified, and this is not necessarily a solution, but more of just sort of a stopgap while we go through our due diligence in terms of deciding what will best remediate this need and mitigate the threat that it represents. But doing just in-house training definitely is making a bit of a difference. We've heard some responses from some of the teachers where they send us stuff, and sometimes it's legitimate but maybe fits the profile, so that tells us that they're looking at stuff. So we also met with SoftDocs virtually, that is, several times, working on the E-Tree migration and looking at things that just sort of have to come along with that, like transitioning to authentication with Office 365, so that employees will be using their email addresses for authentication into the E-Tree migration once that goes to the cloud.
So we still working on the E-Tree?
Yes, ma'am. It is very close to completion. There's been a lot of back and forth between us, the school, and then the E-Tree, the SoftDocs team. It's just been an extremely involved process. So,
would you say 90%?
I would, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So looking at the implementation section, you'll see several items that just reference some of the things that have been performed in the recovery process. Food service, QuickBooks for the bookkeepers, the time system, that server. We also rebuilt a new central office support server, which Thomas and his staff used for, I believe, some payroll functions as well as some reporting, those sort of things. And then so looking ahead for next month, which is December, we'll be continuing the transition of employee machines to the new domain, facilitating the E-Tree platform migration like we've already touched on, continuing to migrate end-user data to the OneDrive cloud, and then continuing that sort of just entry-level fishing training to faculty and staff, with the next school being the high school. We do have our projects continuing, the elementary school student device deployment as well as the faculty device deployment, which will primarily cover primary and elementary schools, but we'll also have some provisions for teachers in the middle and high school that may need a refresh device or come in after the latest round of deployment at those schools.
Matt, just a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Some of the email that I'm receiving through the exchange is saying that this email did not originate from inside our system.
Right.
But all of it is not spam.
Yes, ma'am. Correct. So that banner that you're referencing, it's highlighted yellow, I believe. Is that the one you're talking about? Yes, ma'am. So that is a security feature of sorts that's built into the platform. So all that does is it alerts the user, and it's any user, it's all users. Okay. It alerts that person that this did not come from inside the organization. And the reason that that's in place is that if someone is attempting to impersonate an organization member by simply putting the display name, as first name dot last name of someone who's easily recognizable or someone they may know. Well, oh, hey, that's the teacher, you know, that I know over there. I wonder what she needs me to do. You know, then it's this big alert that says, hey, it looks like this may come from someone you know, but it actually came from outside the organization, which should trigger someone, you know, to think, well, if it's from outside the organization, perhaps it's not actually from the person that it says it is. And that's just one of the elements to some of the safeguards that we've implemented. And again, I'll touch on that. That's one aspect of the phishing awareness. You know, that will be forthcoming. Not necessarily it's a nice report, but in terms of what we're looking at for next steps. Any other questions about the November report? And like I said, later on in the agenda tonight, I'll have a more recovery and next steps oriented report for you all.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. Moving into transportation request, we have one out of state, and that's for the wrestling team to Tallahassee, Florida, 13th and 14th of December.
I'm going to approve the Fisher High School wrestling team to go to Tallahassee, Florida.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion?
What are they going to a tournament, a regional tournament of some sort?
I think we're gonna wrestle other schools from or below Georgia, above Georgia line and the Florida line. So it's their dual tournament down there of some sort.
I don't have a problem with it. I'm just curious.
I think it's a pretty good competition.
Back when I wrestled, we wrestled one team from out of state, but they came. We were in a tournament in Columbus, and they came over from Phoenix City, Alabama.
Same thing.
So,
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor of transportation request, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Report on curriculum and instruction.
Ms. Deanne.
I have some good things for you tonight, so I'm really happy about that. So the first thing that I wanted us to look at is that our elementary school was designated as a reward school by the Department of Education. So that means they were in the top 5% of title schools who made the most progress last year. And so they need to be congratulated, and we've congratulated them from here, and they've had some celebrations and will continue to through the next couple of weeks, because that is a huge thing that they have done. And they are so excited, and that group of teachers, they are working hard. And somebody told me, it was a teacher from there that I met with today, they said the teachers are working hard and they're happy. And so that was really a good thing to hear. Also, I wanted to mention that the primary school, well, let me go back to the elementary school for 1 minute. They made that progress, but there were some stipulations on that they had to keep our economically disadvantaged group, our students with disabilities group, and our English language learners group. They had to maintain, or they had to meet these requirements too. They would not have been designated if those groups had fallen below. So that is something that needs to be said.
So are you saying they maintain, or they actually show progress?
They actually showed progress, yes. And so, you know, a great majority of our students are economically disadvantaged. So if they had not shown significant progress, then that group would have kicked us out of that group, award status. The primary school, while they were not recognized for a specific designation, I don't know what to do with it. Thank you. Okay. They went from a CCRPI score of 45.7 in 2018 to 75.3 in 2019. That's a 54% increase in their CCRPI score. That includes the areas of content mastery, closing the gap between subgroups, and readiness for the next level. So those areas are some of the big areas that they did well in that made those scores go up.
In 1 year time?
Yes, ma'am.
I can't figure out from the calculations of the state, as I go through all the schools, it doesn't look like the actual K2 schools were recognized under the rewards. Now, if you were K3, you could be eligible under the reward certification. But to make that kind of jump, without a doubt, they're in the top 5% of the state. No two ways about it. For improvement and growth, it is just absolutely incredible. K5, what they've been able to do.
So by the power of vested trust, can we declare them a reward people?
I already did.
So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention, and for everybody that listens to our board meetings, I wanted them to know. And I'm going to give Debbie a copy of the actual announcement that the DOE put out so that she can add this to the minutes. So that
You'll
everybody
give
can
one
see
to
that.
Mr. Anderson too?
Yes, I will. Sure will. And so the other thing is, as I told you in our previous meeting, we're continuing with the things that we started. Things are going well with instruction. What's going on here as far as reward schools and progress, that wouldn't be happening if things were not improving as far as instruction goes. The only other thing I wanted to update you on is I went to a meeting in Winterville, which is just about like 10 minutes from Athens. If you don't know that, I didn't know that till I went there. And so it was about NAVI, and as you know, that's an assessment system that we're looking at that will potentially replace Georgia Milestones. It's looking really favorable that that will happen. But one of the things that they're doing is adding a writing component, because everything that Georgia Milestones is a score on, they have to have something like that in this assessment for it to be approved. So our school system in January will be participating in a pilot of that writing. So it does a couple of things. We're a participant in this cohort or this coalition that is working towards using NAVI, but also our teachers and students are going to receive ratings back for the papers that we submit. And that costs a lot of money normally, but because we're participating in this pilot, we're going to get that information back free. So it's going to give us information about where they are with writing and the writing standards, as well as the language standards. And so I think that that's going to be really good. I'm going to go and participate in the rating of those papers so that I have firsthand knowledge of how that is done, so that I can share that with instructional coaches and teachers to give us the best chances to make sure that we're doing what those assessments ask for. I had a meeting with the people from NAVI today. It was a web meeting, and there is the potential that in December we can have a choice of whether to take milestones or not. This is dependent upon how the data comes in. For sure, the next year we would have that option. So it's looking really good as they work with the DOE and the U.S. Department of Education for this assessment. And then in the spring, we will participate in a pilot. And with this pilot, you actually have to pay per student to get the ratings back, and that's how it will be with the real thing. Fortunately, we have L4GA, which is a literacy grant. This is writing. We can pay for our students to get that feedback. So that'll be good for students. It'll be at the end of the year, but that'll be something good for their next year's teachers. But more than that, that will give us valuable information for professional development for our teachers and what we need to be working on for instructional purposes to make sure our students are getting the writing instruction that they need. So I'm really excited about these things, and I just wanted to make sure that y'all knew about it. On the back is our fourth PLC question. We've been going over those. I'm not going to read all of that to you because it's self-explanatory, but this is what will we do when they already know. So this is what do we do for our students who already know what it is we're about to teach. And that's what is the question that has led us to STEAM, accelerated classes, honors classes, AP classes, all of those things that we've been doing, win time that allows for acceleration. So answering that question, we have to answer that question to be truly doing what PLCs are supposed to do. And so it took us a little longer to get to that one because we had a lot to do with what do we do if they don't know. And so now that we kind of have a grip on that, we're looking more at what will we do if they already know. And so there's that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next item, report on college and career academies. There was a meeting, went on for a couple of days.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real quick right here. But we've already received this money. It's $3.1 million, but I've never had a check that big, so I wanted to show it to you. So, as you all know, that's the result of a lot of hard work, 2 years of hard work. I was in the cell phone business when all this went down. All I did was ride up to Atlanta with them and sat there and looked pretty. But they did a lot of Dr. Harrelson and Dr. Tina Anderson and Jason Dunn, and I should have never started because there was a room full of people. Dr. Clayton and Osilla is the reason that all those people working together was the reason that we got that grant for our College and Career Academy. So I just wanted to bring that check. I thought it would be cool. But the reason I brought it is because they gave it to us Monday with the Lieutenant Governor at the Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan's Business and Education Summit, and that's where I was at Monday. And we had 6 people from the community that went on that trip up there twice to try to get that grant. So we had some good representation. I would show you a picture, but they hadn't. The Lieutenant Governor's office hadn't released it yet. So it was a cool honor for me to be there, to get to be in the picture, and I guess that's part of my job. But I defer to everybody who put in that hard work to get that grant, and we've already started spending it. The startup funds, we've done a lot of good things with it. Ms. Clemens, Dr. Harrelson, Mr. Sermons, and Mark Sutton and I have all the CTA. We've done some good things with the startup fund, so we still got bigger things to do. So you'll see that in the paper when all that comes out. We share it on social media, and the big thing I can tell you, and I'll speak for Jenny, the big thing you guys can do, and I said it last time, when you see something on social media, she is loading our page with great news. Y'all share it, put a comment there. 'Cause a lot of times when you comment on it, it gets a conversation started. And the more good news we put out there, the better things are. Real quick, you notice your baskets, your gifts. Those were I think from Dr. Harrelson. That was done by the culinary department, and that's some good stuff. Anybody wants to share it, I'll be glad to help you. But they have been slammed. They are so busy. I asked them to do a gathering for the board that they do every year. Ms. Clemens asked me to call them and see. We got bumped because they're so busy doing stuff like this. So we had to get somebody else to do our dinner. They're doing a bunch of this stuff. I think they're doing the primary school staff dinner. They may be doing one other school, but they were too busy to help us. So I'll take that. This is an entrepreneur experience for these kids. They're making money doing this. Thomas and I had talked about how we're going to handle all this, but the bottom line is we're making money, and we're going to do some good stuff with the money. So I've got some ideas that I'd like to do, so just stay tuned for that. So we don't want to take away from local industry, local businesses, but if you have something you want these guys to do, call me or call Miss Gay, and they'll do it for you. So finally, we're adding a mechatronics program in January. This is, and I say that, you might not know what I'm talking about, but mechatronics is robotics. The best way that I can say it, anybody who's ever been to a theme park, rode a roller coaster, it's what makes that thing go and makes that thing stop and makes that thing stay on the tracks. There's a lot of applications that you, if you go through this program, this dual enrollment program with Wiregrass and the mechatronics, you can go to work for a local industry. We have a robotic welder in this town. Somebody's got to maintain that thing, over time. There's an automation all over, in manufacturing. So you can graduate with that, go into a manufacturing facility and go to work at a pretty good salary. Or you can say, I still want to go to school, and you can go to Georgia Tech and major in engineering. So all this, it'll get you started for a lot of different options. The instructor that we have secured, and we do have him secured, I got word on the way back from Atlanta, it has taken him all over the world. He's got an associate's degree in mechatronics, and he's been on the Skills USA national team, state team, the world team, and he's actually coached the world team. He just got back from Russia coaching the world team in mechatronics. We got somebody really, really good dealing with our kids, and he's a young guy, so he really relates to them. I've had him in the schools talking to some kids. So we're really, really excited about the mechatronics, and you'll see more about it soon.
Wasn't there a young lady from Irvin County that spoke?
Yes.
When we did our grant?
Yes.
And she was involved in that?
She was involved in mechatronics, and she's still working for that company.
Yeah.
She developed an app that saved that company like a lot of money. I don't want to start talking numbers because I don't remember exactly, but she's a high school student, and she's making an impact on this company right now. So we want to have our story for some of our kids, and we've got a couple of kids that I've already met that are interested. Give us about 2 years, and we'll have our own story.
That's
So, anybody have any questions?
Super job.
Thank you for your time.
Moving into new business?
Yes, sir. I have our architect Greg Smith and Travis and his parish team here tonight, and what we would like to do is give the board an update, and then I'll ask approval to move forward with the full scope of the project. So, Greg?
Good evening. Good morning. Just a minute to put this board up, and I'm sorry I'm going to be blocking you off a little bit.
That's all right. They don't want to see me anymore.
Long time no see.
Yes, exactly. So Dr. Harrison's asked me to give an update as to where we are with the new high school. Preliminary drawings have been completed. Plans and specifications were submitted to the State Department of Education for preliminary review. They have a 3-step review process. The state has approved the preliminary drawings. We're now what we call design development or check set type documents. The intent is to have these documents completed by the mid to end of January, which is our second out of 2 steps. Take about another month to finish up the drawings, another month to review, and so in about 3 months, we'll be ready to start talking about advertising and bidding this project. A lot of work needs to take place between now and then. A lot of decisions need to be made. I think that's part of what we're talking about tonight also. This is basically the site plan of the current proposed location of the high school. The highways located here, we're showing 2 driveways coming into the building. There'd be one drive that's primarily for buses and one for parent drop-off and for visitors. We do try to separate the traffic flow between the 2 of them so that we have less congestion, less possibility of accidents, that sort of thing. So the bus drive is back here. The buses will come in, turn around and come back out the main highway. Parent drop-off will come in and then come back out on the same road. They are very long roads as we're set back so far. And part of that is because the site is relatively narrow towards the highway. So we're working around the site. It's going to be a highly visible school from the highway. Get a good image as you're coming into town and out of town from that area. As we build the first road, the roadway for the parent drop-off, we'll be putting a guard check out there so that we can control the people coming into the site. We're going to do it. There are a number of items that Dr. Harrelson's asked that we include to try to improve the safety of the site. The first one will be that guard check. As we get into the building, there will be a number of areas where we have secure vestibules that people have to come in, check in before they have access to the building itself. So as we look at this, we have the bus drop-off. Around the back, we'll have student parking. In the front, we'll have parent visitor parking. And then we have the building back there. Towards the back of the parking, we're leaving space for future development for play fields. Practice football, soccer, baseball, softball, tennis. And that's part of what we'll talk about when we finish this discussion right here as to how far you want to take those. In the initial budget, that's not included in the scope of work. Yeah. Any questions about the site itself? One of the biggest challenges right now is trying to figure out how we're going to handle the sewage on that site. We had looked at 2 options. One was coming out of the rear of the building and going cross country down to the sewage treatment plant. We're trying to work on whether or not we can get some easements from adjacent property owners for that. If that does not work, then we'll go down the highway and come back the long way around it. So we have 2 options to consider the sewer out there. Any questions about the site?
I have a question about the roads that you're talking about, the bus and the main.
This is the
Are they
first.
gonna be 2 lanes?
There will be two, well, there's a lane in and a lane out, so it's 2 lanes that way. It's not 2 lanes in. Is that which way you're asking? In other words, this is drive in, and you come back out, so it's 2 lanes then. But it's not 2 parallel lanes coming in. It's not like a 3 or 4 lane road.
But it's, okay, so if a bus is coming in, a bus will be able to go out at the same time?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. The road,
It just looked like it was just 1 lane on the.
the scale, it really, that road right there, each lane will be 24 feet wide.
Oh,
So you have enough for two vehicles to pass each other. That is correct. And that's the same on the vehicular side. You've seen the conceptual floor plan previously. It's basically based on pinwheel design. And what that means is you have a center hub in the middle of the building, located right here, in which a person can stand and see the entire building. It's very much like your middle school. The advantage with this design is supervision. An administrator standing in the center of the school can see every one of the quarters, including the exploratory, the gymnasium, and all the educational for one space. The primary entrance to the building is located down here. As we come in, this is a secure vestibule. So as you walk in through the first set of doors, you cannot go through the second set of doors until the administrator buzzes you in. And typically you go through some sort of security check, you get a driver's license, you sign in, and then you're buzzed into the school. There is a second secure entrance down here by the college and career. We're treating that as a secondary entrance to the building, so it can be used at times when the main building is not utilized. Recently we had a discussion about how to handle the child care portion. We talked about adding a secure vestibule down here for child care, which would be located down here. So as people come to pick up their children, again, they can enter the building, but they don't do that without having a control mechanism in place to control who comes into the building. So security is a big issue here. Typically in a building like this, we recommend you essentially have no more than 3 or 4 entrances into the building. You may have a lot more exits, but your entrances are your hair drop-off, your bus drop-off, your kitchen, and maybe this other one down to childcare. But you limit where people can come in the building so you can control who is in the building. So the building is set up with the administration here, counselors and assistant principals in this area looking off the octagon. As we come down this side, it's the College and Career Academy. It is a separate wing, so that it has its own identity. It'll have its own finishes. It'll feel like a separate school within that school. As we come down towards the left side, we have the lunchroom and kitchen, media center, gymnasium, and fine arts. So you basically have a fine arts area down there, which is the auditorium, the band, and the choral area in that area. The auditorium will seat 400 students. The gymnasium will seat 900. One thing unique about this gymnasium is we're using precast concrete risers as opposed to operable bleachers. And on those we will have stadium seats, which means it will look more like a college-type gymnasium where it's a little bit higher level than just the movable bleachers. Below those grandstands, you'll have some dressing rooms, some stores, and some restrooms down there. At the back of the gymnasium, dressing rooms, and on the side of it, there's a weight room. So you have all those features there. We do have a space within the building at the grandstands where there can be some practice for wrestling. The classroom wings are set up where we have 2 classroom wings. The one in the center is your 9th grade academy. That is strictly for the 9th grade. And the one to the right of that is your 10th through 12th grade. Each will basically be self-contained. They'll have the standard classrooms along with science. In addition to that, they'll obviously have restrooms, but also teacher workroom and book storage rooms. So every wing will have its own book storage rooms. The heavier vocational are located back here at the back of the building. They have their own drive and covered area outside. We have 3 laboratories back there. They're all designed essentially the same. I think a lot of you visited some of the buildings we went around and looked at, Effingham County College and Career, where they had the really nice auto lab. This is set up very similar to that. You have lecture-type, riser-type seating that looks out over the actual lab itself with a glass wall, and then the doors to the outside are glass overhead doors. So again, it's a little bit upgrade from the type of vocation you've seen before, since we're working on a college career type environment. Any questions about the floor plan?
Do you describe where your special ed?
There are a number of locations for special ed. The special ed located basically around the core here and in each of the classroom wings. So there are about 3 or 4 classrooms, but they're not isolated on one wing. But they are close to the core, so they're close to the lunchroom, media center, and they have good access to it. The family and living center is right there. That has its own kitchen, laundry, and toilet room, including shower. Any other questions on the floor plan?
Is there a bathtub in any of the special ed?
We don't have a bathtub, we have a shower. It can be either one very easily. Typically, most of the ones I put in now are showers. I put a couple in Albury that were bathtubs and we changed them to shower. We can do either one very easily, if there's a preference one way or the other.
Yeah, but washer dryer.
There is a washer dryer in that special ed, that is correct.
And the gymnasium?
In the gymnasium, we actually have commercial washer and dryers, and we have 2 of them, so that we can be washing both male and female. So we have multiple washer and dryers in there. But those are commercial. We're talking about 60-pound type units as opposed to a lot of clothes in those. Other questions of those? And then just some elevations of the building. Rather traditional appearance with a covered walk out front, a covered canopy, large entrance canopy, all brickwork on the exterior with some sloping mansard roofs out in the front here, and at the College and Career Academy, they hope to find the entrances to the building. Don't get tied down to any particular color. The colors will change if you decide to choose one. As I start to show you interiors, people always gravitate to colors and say, no, we won't change them. It's fine. Any other thoughts or comments? Again, we are in a relatively short time frame. Our next big goal is towards the end of January. And by that time, we should have made all the major decisions. In other words, we should tie down the utilities, we should tie down the playfield, make sure the floor plans and the wall sections are all exactly right.
I'm concerned about number 9. The DOE final review that has to be done by April 6th. So all this 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8 must be done before the DOE can do the approval.
That is correct. It's getting close now. We've been working on this a long time.
Right.
The thing is, we're getting close to the end where we'll start to see some more work out.
Yes, sir. Travis, would you like to add anything in?
Certainly. Well, thank you all for having me. I just wanted to, I was asking for a quick update on the budget. You know, we've done this for you before, but just as a quick recap, our role, or a lot of our role during design, is to bring you all periodic budgets at different design milestones. So with these preliminary drawings, we'll bring a budget, we'll bring another one probably, I guess, in February, if the check set is done in January. And the goal for that is just to keep us, make sure that we're staying on track, and if we're getting off track a little bit, which is not uncommon, that we'll make some decisions and equip you all with the cost of the different decisions to get us back on track. Again, that's not uncommon for us to be a little bit off track at this stage. I'm happy to report we met this afternoon. We are not off track at all, and it's more confident that we're as we have it designed, that we're within your stated cost limitations, both with the site and the building itself, which is a great place for us to be. That's a testament to your team and the decisions that they've made on what they're going to put in and what they're not. And also to Greg's designing to within a budget. So that's we're in really good shape. What we didn't include in that in the initial budget, because we don't know where it's going to be, is the athletics. We have talked about that some. We've worked up a little bit of a budget, a rough budget, because we don't know what all's included for at the new site. I know there's discussion about it being here as well, and that's where it's a little bit cloudier. What would that include to put it here? Because then you've got a lot more structure that's already here and that sort of thing. So to nail that down, we would need some more information, more to 5 million range. You can spend a lot of money on athletics, or you can keep it fairly bare. Those are decisions we'll have to make. But based on some of the discussions that we have, we think we're probably in the $4 to $5 million range to add the softball, baseball, some plaza concrete, and a press box, concessions, all that, as well as the soccer and the 2 football fields. Yeah, 1 football field. So that's, and the tennis courts. Yeah, we get tennis courts over there too. So just preliminary discussions on that. That's where we'll go at.
And those are preliminary estimates based on the fact that you go ahead and do it while we're planning the school.
That's
If
correct.
you have to come back later, that's gonna make that cost increase substantially.
It would. There's an economy of scale, and while you have a large site work contractor out here moving dirt, it would certainly save money for him to do it at the same time as he's moving the rest of the dirt and putting in the rest of the storm structures and that sort of thing. It certainly would be a savings. Now, how much of a savings, that's hard for me to tell you, but it would definitely be a savings to do it all at the same time. Yes, ma'am.
So basically, when you break it down, you have a phase A, which would be the presentation of the school and where it sits in the driveways coming in, parking lots and everything. And then you'll have a phase B. The difference of what we're looking at is that I need approval, and I'm gonna ask it here in just a minute, for the full scope of the project. But we're gonna have to turn right back around and decide off of preliminary understandings of numbers what it is we want with phase B and where we want it. Because it is going to make a difference as we move forward on what we would have to cut. Maybe over here to afford this over here, or we might not be able to afford this over here in phase B because phase A won't allow us to fund phase B, if that makes sense. So the problem that we're facing is the piece of paper that I gave you that you see on your screen it's all about the time. And it's all about the time of keeping everybody on the same page in a very short period of time. So what I'm asking tonight is for the recommendation. My recommendation is to move ahead with the full scope of the project as presented. And then what I'd like to do is come back in and have a full discussion based off of that to have preliminary numbers of the full scope of the project to make a decision on what else we would like to have in phase B added into phase A. And then once we get to bids, we'll be able to figure out what we can afford and what we can't afford. The difference is we must narrow it down to what's going to go where. That has to be finalized.
That has to be finalized when?
Before January the
23rd?
Yes, ma'am, 20th.
Right, because again, I want to make sure that we don't miss out on number 9, the DOE's final review.
That comes, you can't even get there until we get this done.
If we wait till January 29th, it's gonna take us time to design the site after that. It doesn't stay on that site.
Okay.
So we need to know before then if we're gonna meet that January 29th.
That's correct. So that was the preliminary understanding that that's when he has to have everything done. We must have that to him well before that. So it leaves us in a very, very strange predicament of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, because you're going off of preliminary numbers and nobody knows what's going to come in to play. The difference is what would you like to see and where is, I guess, what we're moving forward. So right now in phase B, you have a baseball, softball, tennis courts, a press box with concrete. Those will all be soccer practice field and a football practice field. Now those would be located, there's a projection of those located behind the rear of the school. Okay. As I've discussed, I'd like to continue to work with our partnerships with the county, the city, DLS, in the school system of what we're going to do with this site right here. Because the availability is we're gonna have some space to be able to do some things. And I keep bringing it back to the board of what my vision is that we make it a community-based project on some of these projects. So it might not be just, we decide that tennis courts, we want them, but they might not go to the school. They might come back over here and be to where the community can use them. But that's the things we have to look at as we move forward. It's just like Travis and I were talking with Greg. He brought up a great point. We tear this building down, you're still gonna have to seal the building that's left. So when that wall comes down, there's gonna be parts of it that we're gonna have to seal. That's a money factor. And that all plays into the overall expenditure when you put Plan A and Plan B together. Right now, what we need to look at is this. The recommendation of the superintendent is to move forward with the full scope of the project at this time. And that would be for Plan A, Phase A, which is the entire scope of the school and all the roadways into it. And then Plan B would also be included in there. I cannot determine right now with y'all where those are gonna go. But I would like to have them included in the prospect of what we're looking at. Because if they say that a projection could be $36 million for Plan A, and you add $4 or $5 million over here for Plan B, we don't have enough money to make it all work. Does that make sense? So we have to have a projected plan from Greg and from Parrish to be able to submit. That doesn't mean when we get to start construction that we're going to be able to have everything that we submitted. Is that a good point?
Absolutely, and we could certainly set these playfields up as additive or separate bid items, so you
Yes.
know the cost of each of the individual fields. My suggestion is if that's the way you're leaning, is as you say, design A and B, have an overall master plan, have it so we price those individually so you can see what you can afford on bid day.
That's correct.
My only concern is, I want to just make sure that when it comes to cutting costs, that we're not doing Plan B over Plan
No, ma'am. The scope of the school, Plan A is first.
First.
Plan B is an additive.
Okay.
But Plan A must come first. That's what the whole project is about. We're just saying that if we did Plan A well enough and it came in at a good bid and we had money that was accessible over here, we already had the plan for Plan B in place of the full scope of the project. What is it we can afford to do, and then we can decide where it's going to go.
And of course, that'll save us some costs in transportation if we got those practice fields and everything.
That's
right at our hand.
that's correct.
Okay.
So that's my recommendation, is to move forward with the full scope of the plan.
That need to be a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
I move that we go with the superintendent's recommendation to move forward with the full plan, making sure that Plan A is our primary, our priority.
Second.
Motion second, discussion.
So you're definitely planning on putting football practice fields out there?
The issue is that we're just putting it in place now. Doesn't mean that we won't cut it out of there. We're just putting it in the full scope of what could be out there.
So we can get cost.
That's correct. Yes,
You'll be able to make a decision at the time you receive the cost.
that's correct.
What would be the timeline for us obtaining cost?
The hard cost will be when you receive the bids from
You know,
GMP.
that estimates and that kind of thing, because we're gonna have to have some additional meetings. Well, we can't, I can't tell you what a baseball field is gonna cost.
We have some good data on that, so does Travis.
Yeah.
Knowing that those are the items you want, we can develop those costs, and we can bring it back to the next meeting if you want.
Yeah, we'll have to have two meetings.
What we don't have is what type of buildings you want on there and what that would look like. If that's something that you would have roughly developed by your check set, we can include it with that next budget that we'll be bringing to you in February.
In February.
We'll have to-
Can it be earlier than February?
We can come,
Yes.
like Greg was saying, we can come to your next board meeting and bring you some preliminary numbers. We build a lot of these, so we can tell you just general numbers that we see for a typical baseball field, softball field.
Dr. Harrison, we
have
did
a work session.
My suggestion is if we're gonna start getting to all of this, we might need to have another meeting a month.
Yes, sir.
Because you really need to know before 1/25, right?
Yeah, January.
You got 60 days for the final plan.
That's what how we address this. If we say that we're gonna go ahead and design it, and that's the basis of our design, then we can proceed. If we're gonna wait to decide whether or not we should be designing it for you, then we need that information soon.
Yeah, that's why I asked for the full
Okay.
scope.
Okay.
That we go
If
ahead
the
and
board
have-
decides that, okay, we like the idea of Plan A and Plan B, and we like it on this site, then we can be designing that. Okay, we can just be, that doesn't affect the schedule. But if you tell us to wait till a decision's made, then, you know, we can't do anything on that.
Okay.
So the earlier the better.
Yes.
Dr. Harrison did not mention it, the press box and the restrooms, I assume you want that part of the complex?
Yes, sir.
Press box for,
For the
They
softball,
have to have it.
baseball, usually there's
Yeah,
a concession, toilets, and
so that won't be a practice field, that'll be an actual,
Yeah.
okay, got it.
Somewhere.
Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent job, gentlemen. I appreciate all your hard work and your team's hard work. You know, done an outstanding job for us to be able to be at this point this early. And the goal is that we'll push you to make it even earlier. So, what we'll do is we'll let you know as we move forward and schedule any meetings, and I'll get with y'all to bring y'all in based on it.
thank you.
Now Travis and Mr. Greg, I've already put down 5/12/2022 on my calendar.
Okay.
The school will be done.
Hey, Travis hasn't even seen that schedule yet.
It will be finished.
There you go, I got a couple.
I've already put it down. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Thank y'all very much. Be safe.
Would you like these boards, keep the board?
Please,
Yes.
that'd be great.
People love to see it.
All in favor of the motion to send to Jenny, please, signify by saying aye. Any opposed or abstaining? Next item of business is, discussion of sale of the bonds. We have made some efforts on that, this week. I signed my name. How many times I signed my name? 75?
75.
They was full of stuff, right?
So the
Yes,
bonds
ma'am.
will be sold Thursday is the day. Thursday is the day. Now with everything, the technology advancements, all it takes is a couple of swipes on the keyboard and a telephone call. As of right now, our last conversation with bond counsel was that they were waiting on a couple of figures from Mr. Rachel, which he may have already sent to them by now. I guess tomorrow we'll find out the exact time, but that's Thursday. Telephone call, a couple of swipes, and you will have 24.68 million.
No, we will have
Closer to 29.
29.
Excuse me.
Okay,
Not at 29.
all right. Is that right?
$29,729,489.07.
I mean, we,
Less the fees and everything, it'll come up to 24.68.
I think the 700,000 is the
Yes,
fees. I
that's
think it's
right.
28.9 and less fees is 28.7.
Yeah. And then less the 4 million commission and everything is 24.68. But anyway, you'll have that in your account.
Okay.
At some point, it has to go through the paying agent first. So it'll be deposited in the paying agent's account, and then the paying agent will wire it to the school system's account.
That's that?
That's it.
All right, since we're gonna be receiving some money, we better have an account included in, which I think is a resolution that follows about a resolution to open an account at Community Bank. And this will be to receive the proceeds of the bond sales.
And we have to have a
Approve
separate
that.
account.
You don't have to have a separate account. We find it convenient to have a holding account. Georgia Fund is a good vehicle. It makes better interest. It's a governmental pool of funds, and it's hardwired to any withdrawals we make go directly into the local construction fund.
So the first resolution is for a construction account.
The first resolution is for the bond
Personal
holding
areas,
account.
personal areas for construction.
Okay, that's
correct.
And that will be to receive proceeds from the
Next one
Georgia
is the
Fund.
bond.
the next one is.
Yeah.
That one on the board is the GF1 account. That's the bond holding account.
So you go
That's
back.
the other one
Go
that is
back.
the construction.
This
D first.
Sure.
You wanna do D first?
No,
Or C first?
C's is construction.
Yeah.
D is where the money is, bond
No, I
proceeds.
see. B is the bond. But there should be another resolution.
It's under.
So we've got C and then we've got
That's
D.
it. C is the one we're looking at.
So we're doing C first, correct?
Right.
No, that's the bond. That's the bond holder.
Does it really matter?
Look at the other.
We approve of both of them.
This is the bond right here in my hand.
That's the Georgia Fund resolution. Are they both
Hang on.
the same?
Same document.
Hold on, man.
Dr. Harrison had the original. You have the original.
Have the originals right
Right there.
The construction.
Construction.
D is Georgia.
Yes, right here.
You have the original.
Both of them.
No.
That's the bond account.
If you look in the folder I gave you. It's a little folder.
Yes, ma'am.
Bond account's on the legal paper.
For item C, we just have the wrong attachment.
Yeah, I think they got the same attachment on both bonds.
It should be the other.
Right there. Yes. Y'all gave me 12-4. Right here.
The community account is set up just like our general fund account. It would be a computer-generated check that Dr. Harrison and Mr. Smith's signatures on it. And is the only place we'll spend money out of is to the construction company and expenses related to it.
Recommendation.
Can I ask a question while he's looking for his form? Rachel. I said, can I ask a question while he's looking for his form? You said that we had to set up a separate account. So we've done this before, right?
This is exactly how we did the elementary school.
Right, so I guess my question is, since we've done it before, why can't we use the account that we used before?
The nature of those projects is that everything zeroes out, and when that happens, you know.
So are those
they just
accounts are
close
closed?
those
Oh,
accounts.
okay, gotcha.
What we can say about the gold rule coming out of the regular rule?
It's the premium fee.
It's a premium.
And it comes out for one
We all work for free. The total at the end will be 24.6. It comes out at the end.
28.
You
So
get
they're
it almost
getting 4 million
29.
back.
She can eat. Oh, she can eat.
How much?
It's on one.
Do you want them to take some back?
I mean, that's a good.
Okay, wrong.
You should have
That's what my wife does.
But it won't pull it from one line.
She's not.
You know, when I point that out, you know when I point back at me.
Yeah. Community bank,
Community bank.
right here.
According to the document.
And that is to open up, this is a resolution to open up a construction account.
That is correct.
I would like to move.
Mine is
to
six.
the superintendent's recommendation for approval of a resolution for construction account at Community Bank.
They do get removed when it, but at the,
Motion and a
you
second.
still have to pay, because at the end, you're gonna have to.
I understand that's not what we're attached to that.
Yes, correct, correct, correct. I can say at the very end, you don't want to go 24.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, do I need to say that? Stipulating that's not what's attached to the current agenda.
I'm just making sure
I'm trying
everybody,
to upload it now.
That resolution designates that account ending in 1199.
1199.
I want everybody to be clear. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve the opening of a construction account at the Community Bank, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. The next item is a request a motion to approve a resolution for a bond revenue holding account with the Georgia fund.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion second, and that resolution is attached.
That's correct. That's this one.
Georgia Fund One.
This
Any discussion?
Yeah, I got it, got it.
All those in favor of approving the resolution for a bond revenue holding account with Georgia Fund One, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll have some, don't get away, we'll have some documents for
Yes.
for the sign. Okay, Matt, an update on the technology recovery and next steps.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, as I mentioned earlier, y'all, just wanted to take an opportunity to give you an update and then look at where we plan to go in the future. So, looking at this agenda slide, it sort of lays out what we're going to be presenting to you, and it's only 6 slides total. So, this will be brief, but I wanted it to be informative. So, we started with the update to the security recovery operations, and then looking at the VARTEC approach to a layered IT security overlay on the environment, and then getting to what those next steps are. So this first slide here is, like I said, this is an update of what we've done, and what we're doing. So what has been completed to date is that, and some of this may be a bit redundant from previous reports, but I wanted it to be inclusive. So as you know, we restored servers and built a new domain using a secure staging network. And again, a lot of these items that we've completed and that we're doing were done with both the expertise of our engineers plus the incident response experts that were consulted through CDWG. So they guided us through such items as the secure staging network that you see in the first bullet, just to make sure that the recovery was not compromised down the road. Also along those same lines is we changed the password for all system and user accounts. Again, as a precaution to that understanding that it may have been a compromised password that led to this incident, it was incumbent upon us to go ahead and change all of those to ensure that if that was the case, that was not a continued risk. And then next, under the completed section, we conducted thorough triage processes on all endpoints. And what that references is, if you think about rebuilding an infrastructure so that it's clean, so that we know it's clean, well then it was also equally as important to ensure that the endpoints that were in deployment were not further risks to that clean rebuild. So that triage process mentioned there included touching every computer or remotely deploying a security agent that could provide high confidence that the machines that were being brought back into the environment were indeed clean and did not pose a risk to the rebuild effort. Now, some items still in process, moving employee endpoints or computers to the new domain as we rebuild the domain so that we had confidence that it was secured. We were also required to move employee stations into that new domain, which does require a touch of the physical machine. So as you can imagine, this is the most time and labor going into this item among these that I'm discussing here tonight. But while we're at it, we're also migrating employee files into OneDrive file storage, as I mentioned from the monthly report. Sort of one touch accomplishing two tasks there. And then also coordinating with SoftDocs on the eTree cloud migration. Now, as I told you earlier, this has been a bit involved, and I do believe we are very near the end, per the feedback from the support team and the specific engineer that we're working with the on the migration to the SoftDocs cloud. Okay, so next I want to look at the fundamentals of IT security. So this is intended to give you all an understanding of the layered approach that we're taking in terms of both remediation, but also protection against any threat that might emerge in the future. So from an operational perspective, user education and evaluation, which includes raising awareness, as I touched on earlier, through regular communication, but also ongoing testing exercises, just to ensure that if there are, let's say, at-risk users on the network, having something to indicate who those people are, not so that we can get them, but so that we can raise their awareness and track their progress over time is extremely vital. Up next, and I know this is also an agenda item later on, cyber insurance and auditing. So that's definitely the insurance coverage, but then also the periodic review of systems and process standards. As we think about cybersecurity in general, that approach is very much a changing target. So this is definitely an endeavor in continuous improvement, but at the same time, we understand that you'll never arrive. With emerging threats, it's important to keep these things always evolving, and improving on a continuous basis. So those are some of the operational fundamentals. Looking at more of the technical fundamentals of IT security, again, a layered approach, both conceptually, but also, sort of technologically, having those layers to environmental controls is important. Some of those things are next generation network firewall for edge protection. Endpoint protection is also critical. That's just another layer that protects the actual stations that people operate on a daily basis. Looking at items such as authentication, authorization, and accounting, which could be applied to system access, which means you would have other systems on top of your functional systems that would apply additional security for access to control unauthorized potential access to those systems. And then network segmentation. This is just a concept that is applied, but as part of that continuous improvement, can always be reviewed for more higher levels of application of that segmentation if it will increase the overall security of the network. And then active monitoring for such things as like security events and that sort of thing. Having a system that can alert technology administrators to something that might be potentially potential risk or some sort of exploit of vulnerability or that sort of thing, just through automated management of logging can be very beneficial on the technical side as well. Okay, so looking at next steps, or taking these things and putting them into practice or application. As I mentioned, the user training is extremely vital, likely the most important piece of this. So it's at the top of this list to implement structured, consistent end-user training on cybersecurity. So, keeping in mind that the approach to cybersecurity is both layered and a journey in itself. This is going to be a big part of it because you have users coming in, you have who may be new to to what some of the sort of red flags are. So if we are able to recommend a, something that could be an ongoing campaign for our users, it'll do several things. It'll show us, like I said, who maybe those high-risk users are, but also give them information and training, which is the point. Then on top of that, give you all and us as IT professionals sort of feedback on the progress of an anti-phishing campaign, for instance, to see when we start what the percentage of risk is based on who clicks on, training type phishing emails, and then over time, measure that against the improvement of what a campaign can do for our users. I'm just going to throw out some random numbers. Let's say it was 50% click rate the first time. Well, we would expect over a training campaign that at the end of that campaign, that percentage, that click rate would be much lower, meaning there would be much fewer people, far fewer that would fall for it, exactly, and click on it. And then keeping in mind that this entire approach is a journey, we would reset the campaign, right? You have, like I said, new employees coming in, people that may let their guard down thinking that, well, I got it now, I don't have to think about it anymore. It's going to have to be a continuous process. Again, directly tied to that. So if we understand that the phishing emails are an issue for our users, well, then the next bullet addresses more on the technical side of identifying something that we can lay over top of our email system that will help protect us from receiving these things. So doesn't mean that these things aren't already in place with what we have. It just means that adding a layer may be prudent in terms of getting us to a level of security that is needed. Next, protecting mission critical systems with two-factor authentication. So that kind of sounds, sounds complicated. What it means is having potentially something that we lay over top of server access that requires something in addition to a password. That way, in the event, heaven forbid, a compromise or password is compromised, it's not the only authenticating factor required for someone to use against our systems. They would have to have that in conjunction with information that will be layered over top of that as a second factor authentication. A text to a phone, a message to an email or something that says, hey, this access is being attempted, is it legitimate or can you validate it? Something to that effect. And then moving on to the next, review existing network segmentation to evaluate level of security. So what that means is segmentation increases security, but at some point you reach a level that may be prohibitive to productivity and operations. So this also falls into sort of reviewing our processes and standards in terms of what makes the most sense. Is there a way we can turn that dial a little bit? Because we already have network segmentation, but what this refers to is a review to obtain whether or not we can crank that up, ratchet that up to a degree that doesn't impact network performance and those type of things. Next, deploy local administrator password management solution. So we've already started this with the new domain rebuild, and what this describes is on each machine there's a local administrator account. Now it may not necessarily have the name administrator, but just for the understanding, it would allow a technician to do what they needed to do to fix a setting or maybe install software or something like that. But having different passwords for all those accounts greatly mitigates the risk of a password leaking out or being compromised. But as you can imagine, it's also very labor intensive to track that manually, which is what we're doing right now. But we're also looking at ways to automate that and what that might mean for the environment, for the management of those systems. And then lastly, collaborate and create policy around account management. So I think what comes to my mind with this one is ensuring that our institutional processes for things like onboarding and offboarding of employees and those type of things are in the strongest position they can be in, and look to make improvements in those areas as well, so that there's no issue, or identifying areas where maybe we can make things better, both from operational and a security standpoint. And again, the key there is the collaboration, to work with people like Dr. Harrelson and the folks in the business office who generate those requests, and just make sure we're doing those in the most secure manner available. Now, I know this is high level and it was intended to be so because what we did not want to do is bring something to you that was a knee-jerk reaction or something that was not inclusive. We absolutely want to bring comprehensive proposals if any are required, but in order to make that determination, we simply need to take a little more time to perform our due diligence, which is the reason I wanted to give you this report. I think it provides you a status update, but also gives you insight into the areas that we're reviewing in terms of performing that continuous improvement, and then actually coming back with whichever recommendations is agreed upon will achieve these ends. So just so you know, I'm working with senior WARTEC leadership, working with Thomas, working with Dr. Harrelson. We're all looking at these things together, and my intention is that I will have specific recommendations ready for the board to review starting in January.
Well, Matt, you know what I want to know?
Which is?
How much did the hack cost us in the end? Do you have those figures yet? How much for the professional people we had to bring in, the technicians, the shutting down of the school system, shutting down of payroll?
So in terms of the actual cost in dollars, I don't believe we have approached the limit approved by the board, which I recall was 20,000 limit set by the board. Was that correct, Dr. Harrelson?
That's correct.
So I don't believe we've reached that yet. Now, we're dependent a lot upon the information we get from the service provider, which in the instant response realm was CWG. So some of that is somewhat unknown to me, but we told them we absolutely cannot go over this mark, and we want to know what these things are periodically. So the last report that I saw from the engineer, I don't exactly recall what it is, but it was not approaching the limit that you all established.
I pretty much was thinking about, since we've got to make a decision on the cyber insurance, I was just wondering what the cost was for the rent. I know the ransom was something like $250,000 or more.
It was higher than that.
It was higher than that, the
Twice
ransom.
that.
And so being insured would certainly protect us from
Yes, ma'am.
that kind of thing, plus cover the cost of anything we would have to fix after someone has hacked us.
I would imagine those would be in the terms, but the terms would dictate that. That is customary. Yes, ma'am. You're absolutely correct. I just, without knowing the terms, I can't absolutely speak to that one with 100% certainty. But I do believe that would be the objective of such policy.
Well, I might add, because I've done some digging on this, as you know, I'm in the insurance business, I'm not in the cyber insurance, but I've been digging. I first want to applaud VARTEC because I've spoken to an agent that works in, he's a guru in this. And I'm just telling him briefly kind of where we're at. He's like, and you didn't pay the ransom? Nope, no. And you got all your data almost back? Yes. He said, all I can tell you is you have got a great system. I mean, amazing. For example, he referenced the Atlanta issue that happened last year. I believe it was last year. And when I told him it was $500,000, he said, first off, you must know that you're living in amateur with that, because typically it's about 50,000, maybe 100. It's like a quick grab and go. It's not a big. And when you got a $500,000 issue, that's somebody with some. And then again, to have your protection that we have, it cost Atlanta City $4 million is what they cost them in their all these things. That it was amazing. But it may piggyback into the next thing with our insurance. We were told, and I wasn't really sure, this kind of got me a little sideways, with if we got hacked again, we would just pay the ransom, just give our stuff back and let's go. The insurance is actually not going to be designed like that. The insurance is going to be designed to be exactly what VARTEC is doing. They will bring in, I've done some notes today, they'll bring in a forensic technical specialist. I'm thinking, y'all are doing that. So they will set up they'll try to figure out where it comes from. What can we do to stop it from happening again? The positive piece of it with the insurance wise was it will actually set up a call center to notify all people that possibly was breached. He said, for example, again, it's our scale with our employees as well as students, but it's gonna cost about $2 to $3 a person to notify everybody involved. So you have a large expense there, depending on, again, who's all that. But they will set that call and notify center up. That was a positive. They will have a PR person that will get out in front of it, you know. But everything they told us, or told me, was things that were already in place.
All right.
I mean, Gartech was ahead of the game. He said the least important thing in the cyber insurance is cutting the check for the ransom. That was the least piece of the puzzle. That they didn't even view that as being like, let's just pay it go. Now let's keep things in front side. So I'm on the fence with the insurance because it was about an $8,000, almost $8,900 premium. Maybe we'll never get hit again. However, I think everything this policy is going to offer, we got place, it looks like. Yeah.
Are you an insurance lady telling us we don't need insurance?
It's not through her agency.
But we are still receiving emails.
That's
For
right,
sure.
right. So that's why, as I discuss these next steps with you, some of these things will result in proposals for some, you know, for further security provisions for the environment. Now, the reason why I'm not telling you exactly what I have in mind is because we've not gone through the vetting process. So I don't want to mention something as an example, you know, and then you know, come back with something else. You know, that wouldn't be consistent. So that's why I mentioned performance of the due diligence. We want to absolutely make sure we're being your partner and stewards with these proposals, so that what we do is comprehensive. You can see the entirety of the recommendation, and you know, it's not us coming 1 month with one thing, next month, you know, et cetera. We want to kind of paint the full picture for you before these things start actually coming across your desk. And again, wanting to take the time to make sure we're properly vetting the solutions that are available. Because you can go out and get, you know, there's tons of stuff available. We want to make sure what we get works from a functional perspective, but also works for Pensacola.
If you go under CNN right now, Pensacola city and county government just got ransomware. They're completely locked down. So think about that.
And it's hard to separate some of the expenses because some of the expenses we were already anticipating. The purchase of the new firewall was $53,000. We were going to do that anyway. We had to have a bigger firewall because of the increase in the bandwidth that we purchased. Our costs going forward are going to be more costly. It costs more to host things in the cloud. And it costs, we're adding a layer of software security that's going to be an extra cost. We probably haven't really spent but about $20,000 overall that we wouldn't have spent already. But going forward, those expenses that we had in place are going to be more expensive than they were.
It's truly, and I know y'all gonna look at me like I'm crazy, it's really a blessing because of where we're going with technology, full one-to-one kids, full one-to-one teachers, staff. It's forced us to reevaluate what the future looks like and make a better plan. So really, it's been a blessing on what we've been able to go through.
I might add, keep in mind, I was not saying all that to say that for insurance. For sure. But it's just to make you aware of what we have.
And what a great job.
You can compare adding to. For sure, it's just be careful of that. So.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of training has been implemented for the employees?
So we've been providing what I refer to as in-house training before that we've started performed at the middle school. Primary school. High school was planned for the 12th, so Thursday. What this is doing is it's providing what I've referred to as a stopgap training of the employees while we take time to vet. We don't want to wait while we're taking that time to do our due diligence. We're simultaneously performing this training to raise this awareness on an initial basis. And then once we come back with the recommendation for what we believe will be the best practical training method. And when I say that, I don't mean that the training that we're giving isn't effective. I do believe it is effective, but there are things out there that can give you metrics on, like I said before, there's curriculum, so you don't have to develop that. And also it gives you the very, very beneficial tool of saying, all right, I'm going to show you what you need to know about what a fish email is, some of its characteristics, or all its characteristics. Then you're going to get something in the future, and it's going to be designed to attempt to trick you against that understanding. And then there can be reports generated, as a result of that. That can be shared with administration, with the board, so you can see exactly where your school is. And then again, the real value is being able to repeat that exercise and then track your progress, right? I mean, it's exactly what you all do as educators on a daily basis, right? You teach something and you track progress against the learning and the understanding of it. So it's the exact same learning-based approach. There are just some really great tools out there that already do this very well, and can really give you a good understanding of where your school is, and make decisions based on that.
Can you, as part of the training, can you, send out a fake email?
That's exactly what I was
Okay, that's what you're
describing.
talking
Yes,
about.
ma'am.
Okay.
It'll be a fish email. There just won't be anything malicious in it. It'll
Just to
be
see if
designed
anybody's
right.
gonna click on it.
And
Okay.
having that system laid over top will tell you, okay, well, we had a teacher click on that, even though they didn't ask for it. They didn't really recognize the email. It just said it was from somebody they knew, and they clicked on the attachment just to see what it said. Or they were enticed to click because they thought it was related to something that they have an interest in, or things like that.
Curious.
Right. So those will go out as the type of system we're talking about would send that out. You can tweak it to where everybody's getting the same thing all at one time. And so when you take it, say, oh man, that thing got me. Okay, well I won't put it on. Go out at random times, be varied in its content and in its approach and that kind of stuff, and just intended to mimic those risky type emails. And then again, that's where it can report back, and then you can all see, not to get people, like I said, but just to understand, right, exactly, be part of the training and understand where we're at, and track that progress over time.
I think that the training that you've done thus far has been great, because if you recall, during our Thanksgiving break, and we got an email saying, hey, there's a possibility of something going crazy here. And I recognized it, I knew what it was. And a business in town had wanted to share with educators a little discount for Black Friday or something. And it just didn't make its way to the proper channels to get that approval. Well, she must have known a few people to send that email to. Well, and several got it, and it just dropped some flags up, and they notified him, and so he said, don't open this up. So again, the staff, I think, is being educated correctly.
That's good.
With that, so.
And the part about the offboarding, so when someone separates from the district, you take them out of the system immediately, of course.
That's part of this protocols and policies we're evaluating about what needs to happen and who's responsible for doing what, to make sure that we are cleaning that end of it up.
Okay. Nothing like a disgruntled.
Well, I think that you saw from this past week at GSBA that new policy and procedure procurements are fixing to take over everything that we do. And it's going to be a very busy time getting all those in place for everything.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep,
Super
thank y'all.
job.
Next item, business, I'll entertain a motion to approve a cyber insurance policy for Axis Insurance Company in the amount of $8,788, and I presume that's our annual premium.
That's correct.
That's the motion.
Floor is open.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? discussion?
While I think our folks have done a fantastic job, we do need some protection. I don't know exactly how it works with the insurance, but, that has been a really costly deal, and Bartek did keep everything down for us as much as possible, and Matt, you guys did a great job.
And I'd like to say we definitely recommend moving forward with this, in addition to what Thomas and Dr. Harrelson have recommended.
Y'all have looked at this and all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Next item of business, I'll entertain a motion, we approve the lease renewal of the Eagle Cargo trailers at the amount of $4,000 per month.
Make a motion that we approve the lease agreement with Eagle Cargo for $4,000 a month.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Next item, entertain a motion to approve the cafeteria plan. You'll be looking at the 4 documents and the agreement and the resolution. The 3 and 4 have to be signed, so we're approving the package deal.
That's that 125 stuff?
Yes, ma'am.
For the IRS.
So will be IRS compliant, our plan will be
Yes.
functional this year, yes.
I make a motion to approve the cafeteria plan resolution.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Because we have no new board members for the coming year, we're allowed to do this, and that is to go ahead and, in preparation for the new year, go ahead and set our officers, time and date, meetings, and location. So I'll entertain a motion to temporarily suspend board policy BB8, which will allow us to go ahead and fulfill those obligations tonight.
Move to suspend board policy BBA.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Next item is nomination election of board chair for 2020.
I'd like to make a motion for Mr. Gary Sims as board chair for 2020.
Second.
Motion second, nominations. All those in favor of the nomination, motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Entertain a motion for nomination and election of board vice chair for 2020.
I'd like to make a motion for Shirley Brooks as vice chair for 2020.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor of Shirley Brooks as vice chair for 2020, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. I make a motion that we approve the board meeting dates. Those items are listed for you. Generally, the second Tuesday of the month, with a couple of exceptions in there for various reasons. And that's just looking ahead. And place served will be the board office, and time will be 6 p.m. for regular meetings. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion?
I'm just curious of one. The July 7th meeting, there's always been that conflict when some of your administration is out for that week of before. Should that be offered?
It
regardless?
actually set the falls on the second week, didn't it?
July?
Fourth is on
Oh,
Saturday.
So it's gonna put the meeting against the,
So we put it there because we are always behind the 8 ball with getting people approved and making things happen, so we put it early so we can have another one if we need to have another one inside there.
I was just making sure that we didn't do anything on July.
Yes, ma'am.
But without having completed the calendar, we still know that we're not falling on any,
We'll be bringing that to you.
all
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Any other questions? All those in favor of the board meeting dates, time, and place for 2020, signify by saying aye. Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Report from the SBA one conference that we just returned from.
Mr. Chairman, if you would allow me, I will report on the legal, the E. Freeman Leverage Legal Issue Workshop. Most of the issues there were around proposed legislation that the U.S. Department of Education had for Title IX and the impact that it's going to have on booster clubs or any other organization that makes donations to the school for specific sports activity. To ensure equity between male-dominated and female-dominated sports, lawyers are taking a close look at the amount of funds given to each sport, the experience and compensation of coaches, materials and equipment supplied for each sport, even meals before the game, and charter buses. This was proposed last year and the final ruling has not been published at this time, but it is something that we definitely need to be thinking about, how we're gonna handle that. This proposal also includes changes to the definition of sexual harassment and changes in investigating those cases. We were warned that the Office of OCR holds that school districts are obligated to ensure compatible benefits for all sports, regardless of to the funding source, and due process for all victims and accusers of bullying or sexual harassment in these situations. Other topics they talked about was vaping and CBD, legislation and sovereign immunity, as well as issues about tribunal rulings. There's going to be a lot of changes there. Names are going to be mentioned, even though they're names of minors. So we're going to have to be very watchful for the changes in the upcoming year. That concludes my report,
Good.
Mr. Chairman.
Very good.
I'm good with that. Anybody else?
I was not as impressed with the conference this year as I've been being there. Did you notice that on the last day of the conference, there were 0 motivational speakers?
On the not the last day.
Not the last, well,
It was till my Thursday, because we had a fireball on Friday. We had a good one
yeah,
on
well,
Friday.
usually on, they messed me up when they changed the dates on
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I was concerned about the format.
Yeah, it was different than it's been being.
Last day.
It was way different than what it's been being. I wasn't impressed with it.
I presume that would be an item of discussion.
Yeah.
And I know there's nothing we can do about it, but based on what.
Evaluations and that feedback.
No, based on what you said about the Title IX stuff,
Oh.
they're basically saying that a donor cannot donate the money where he wants it to go. And I just totally disagree with that.
So we have to remember too, this is college and high school, this is.
I know we have no say so in it,
And they just high school.
And keep in mind too, it's been proposed legislation. And so, we don't know what's gonna happen yet. It was proposed last year and still haven't come out with a final ruling. So it's a possibility if they get enough feedback from the public that it might not even happen like that. But we do need to be aware of our obligation as a school district to make sure that we're being as equitable as possible.
But now,
Just in
wouldn't there
case.
be a difference, like what you said, if somebody donates and they say, I want to go here, that wouldn't be a problem. They're talking about fundraising and stuff, aren't they?
But
The
that's
money
what
that the school
that's
pays.
what the donations
The
are.
way they point it out is if you decide to give it to basketball girls,
Mhm.
but the school is gonna be responsible to give the same amount to the boys.
That's right.
But-
They don't care how we
Have to
come up
match
with it.
Yeah, but it's not saying you can't personally say, I want this to go to this group. You can
But that's what
still
it's
do
gonna come
that.
down to.
Yeah.
But because it costs way more money to operate a football program than it does a girls softball league.
That's true.
See
So
what
they
saying?
want the girls to be able to receive the same amount of monies that the boys are, although I'm all for the girls program. But I don't like being told that you can't use the kind of money
But-
you're being using for your football program, because some of us gotta come out and go to the girls program.
But now, would it be for the same sport, or is it all the way around? Because the sports have to, would you have to give the same amount of money to the boys soccer as you give the boys girls soccer? Because football does bring in more money. So
It
you
costs
can't really
one
compare the
thousand.
two.
It doesn't, that's not
see,
the discrepancy.
that's not
If you'll
it.
ask our lawyer, she'll tell you it's all in the
Seems like it would be the
articulation
sport to
of the
sport.
complaint and how it's presented.
Yeah, I can't even say that they're saying that it's going to be the amount of money so much as it, because, you know, there are a different number of boys that's gonna be on the football team and girls gonna be on a softball team. So I'm not sure how they're breaking that out. I just simply know that when they're talking about coaches, we'll scorch the earth to get a football coach with all the experience in the world. And anybody who walk in our school breathing, we'll put them on the soccer. And be a soccer coach, and that's not fair. It's not fair to the girls. So what they're saying on all levels, we feed the football team before they go to every game, but we don't feed the other teams before they go to a game. So they're saying it's not equitable. But certainly someone who donates money to us have every right to say where they want that money to go, but what they're saying, they're gonna hold the school responsible for matching that money. And that's something we cannot do. The Purple and Gold Club raise a lot of money. We can't match
We
it.
do understand you said all that in tongue in cheek.
Right, of course. Just joking, I'm sure. Yes, just joking. I'm sure we have some
Wanna
very
move on to the
experienced.
If that's where we're gonna be.
That's where we're gonna
Yeah, okay, thank you for those comments.
be. Yes, ma'am.
Moving on to the next item. Two very months ago, I brought to you some information about, it's a Rotary, project, based, pretty much, about creating some school classrooms and, equipping those school classrooms in Aiken. Probably a total of 7 classrooms, when it gets finished. They are ready now to begin receiving items by February the 1st. Not immediately, but by February 1st. For about 2 classrooms, which would be about 50, 25 apiece, 25 students apiece. So 50 items of whatever we could send to them: desks, chairs, computers, printers, anything that we declare surplus and would be willing to share with a person. Some of the arrangements have been worked out with the transportation. My friend Thompson and St. Simons has agreed to fund the transportation from location to Miami. There's another benefactor that will fund the transportation from Miami to Haiti. It would be us declaring certain items surplus.
That's correct.
And agreeing to release those items to this project, and then maybe some legwork and maybe renting a boxcar or something to be transported and that kind of stuff. Some labor involved through things.
What I'd like to do is make it part of the FHSS CCA student project. So it would be a voluntary project where the students participate and they can get volunteer hours towards their resume or towards their resume for college.
The other item that we have is, at present, we do have an interact club.
Yeah.
That's part of Rotary, perhaps they can be part. I guess we would need to maybe in January have a specific list of items to be declared surplus.
Myself and Mr. Newell will be working on that, and we're already working on that.
Good deal.
Great.
All right, next item, entertain a motion to approve the fundraising project for the Video Media Center, which would be to sell Dr. Seuss t-shirts.
I move to approve the fundraiser for the media center.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Entertain motion to approve fundraising, motion carries. Entertain motion to approve the fundraising project for the elementary school, Daddy Daughter Dance.
I move to approve the fundraiser for the elementary for Daddy Daughter Dance.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. As we get into, upcoming events, it's just point of personal privilege. Let us congratulate our neighbors down the road, the Earl County Indians, and Coach Wayne Noble, and his staff for being in the finals this weekend.
Absolutely.
Saturday morning, 10 o'clock, this team has been through a lot of adversity, everybody's situation this year, and I certainly support them, and through our school buzz and
That's
everything.
correct.
We wish them well.
Yes, sir.
They're adversaries on the field, one game, but
They're our neighbors.
they're friends. And our partners.
That's correct.
Okay, you have your events, there, and, we have our personnel items. and Recommendations, I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommendations presented to us of Valerie Lee, Aubrey Wilcox, and Elizabeth Parris.
Move to approve.
Shirley and then Miss Michelle.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. I have a request for leave of absence, Chelsea Mathis. Entertain motion to approve.
Motion to approve the leave of absence from Miss Chelsea Mathis.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to approve the retirements of Wanda Kimball, Rita Neer, and Ron Donahue.
Make the motion to approve those retirements as indicated.
Second.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All
Why
those
don't
in
tell us
favor?
about Wanda Kimball?
Can we stop there now?
I
It's
mean,
there.
she's been here 30 years.
34. 34.
She's our special education director. Did she have to go?
Nobody has to go, no ma'am. It's an individual choice, and there's certain circumstances based on it.
All in favor of the retirements, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. We have a, entertain motion to approve the resignation of Jack Campbell.
Make a motion to approve the resignation of Jack Campbell.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries.
I'll make a recommendation, move to the
Session termination, item personnel. After a brief recess, I'll make a motion to go into executive session for discussion, personnel and compensation.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor, signify by saying, by raising your hand, please. We'll stand in recess for a moment.